Hello, and welcome to a new podcast from Two Lazy Dogs Media called Reproductive Romanticism, the real stories of the reproductive cycle. My name is Ashley Nicole Smith Carlson, aka Phoenix Nymphy, and I'm here to talk about the real stories of the reproductive cycle with birth givers and people who can give birth. When the overturning of Roe v. Wade was announced, I reached out to people who have the ability to give birth, including trans men, non-binary people, and cisgendered women. Since the recording of this podcast, Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and our country has been thrown into a very volatile and hostile situation for people seeking abortions. There have been reports of women being arrested and put in jail, of doctors being arrested and charged, people dying, and so much more. As a storyteller, I wanted to take this opportunity to interview some people about their own stories to shed light on the fact that this is not going away and that everyone's reproductive journey is not only different, but very personal, and no one should be making that decision for them. Today, I'll be featuring Lisa MacPherson, also known as KinkedNitemare. Kinky joined me and two other moms during this interview, whom I will feature in later episodes. Kinky is not only my bestie, but she is a mom of two. She's an admin for multiple inclusive online communities, including Real Women of Gaming and Girl Streamers. She is also a person of mixed race and has had quite an interesting journey. Before we jump into Lisa's story, I would like to give y'all a content warning because we will be talking about very sensitive subjects, including abortions, rape, sexual assault, and miscarriages. Thank you for joining me on this journey as we listen to the stories of the reproductive cycle.
Hi, I'm Lisa, or KinkedNitemare. I do stream and various other things, but I am mom of two. I have had 2 C-sections. I'll say I didn't know if I had kids to begin with because various traumas in raising my siblings, and resentment and all that. The time I did realize was when I met that human back there, my husband, in real life, not just online. And I was raising my nephew at the time, and he took to it right away. I'm like, okay, it's a possibility.
Aww.
We get married. I've already planned because as a fat person my entire life, they're like, well, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna struggle.
Yeah.
Being fat is not. And I should have known this because most of the women around me are plus size as well. But being fat is not actually the precursor to saying you're gonna have a hard time getting pregnant. But I went into it thinking that. I picked up a book trying to conceive, started tracking my period, which really wasn't hard because I had a regular period, which should have also given things away. We did the deed in February. We got pregnant in February, and I can give you the exact day we conceived the first one because I have it on a calendar somewhere. So, no problems there. I didn't really have a problem with. I had a pretty easy pregnancy, physically, except for they were treating me high risk from the word go because of my size. So I was giving them urine every week.
Oh my God. Just because you were a fat person and because we automatically assume that because you're fat, you're unhealthy, which is,
Yeah.
we all know is not the truth, that fatness does not equate unhealthiness.
Yeah, up until that point, I really didn't have any precursors for anything. Nothing, no high blood pressure, no diabetes or anything. But I was getting checked weekly.
Yeah.
I started with a woman. and then got traded off to a man because in Canada you'll get traded off. It's just gonna happen. But they started talking C-section early
Yeah.
early on. They're like, you're probably not gonna be able to give a vaginal birth. Oh, okay.
Is that because of the fatness or
Yeah,
because, okay. Do you think, now that you've gone through it, do you think you could have had them vaginally? Or
I
you
don't
had,
know.
okay.
I never really got the chance.
Yeah.
Um,
I, I fail to see the equation
Yeah, right?
between
I don't,
your vagina
right?
and your weight
Right.
because it's still there.
I I also don't understand because wouldn't it actually be better for you, because I'm also a fat person. I'm up there in weight. I would think it would actually be easier to give it vaginally because they're not having to cut into everything and causing the issues that you now deal with
yeah,
because of it.
I mean, we'll get into that yet,
Yeah, we'll get
but
into that.
with the 1.0, he stayed in there for 42 weeks.
Wow. He
So
did not want to come
yeah, what come out?
out.
So they spent 5 days trying to induce me. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. Um, nothing was moving. So I don't know if that had anything to do with my weight. I feel like maybe it just was gonna be. But they're like, okay, maybe we dilated you just enough. And they gave me Pitocin.
What is that?
It's supposed to increase your contractions.
Okay, okay, it's that drug. Okay.
Yeah. So basically the moment it hit my system, my child was in distress.
Oh God.
He pooped in the womb and aspirated, and they're like, okay, well, this is gonna be a C-section now, and they were right. It was a C-section now. It was my first major surgery of my life.
Wow. Do they put you under when they do a C-section or are you awake? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So, um, they put a port. They I was numb from, I would say, probably my boobs on down. They put a port in the middle of my spine and had it constantly hooked onto my shoulder so they could control the amount of numbing
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
agent
yeah.
and morphine that was going into me. Which I get.
Yeah,
It's a hell
that
of a drug.
it's got to be that's got to be monitored
Mm.
really closely in that situation, definitely.
Yeah. Very much awake. You can very much feel the tugging. I I am one of those people who probably would have watched it if I had gotten the chance because I'm just that kind of person. And they do offer that now. But my husband did get to peek over and got to see all of my guts just out. I recovered pretty well from the first one. I was standing up after I could feel my legs again. I was standing up pretty much right away, and they're like, is this not your first baby?" And I'm like, "No, this is my first baby." And they're like, "Oh, you
Wow.
got up real quickly." And I'm like, "Is that not it's not normal?"
No.
I don't
Not
I can
abdomen, not when you have abdomen surgery. No. That is not
Well, they
normal.
want you up. They
Yeah.
want you up after a C-section as soon as
Yeah.
possible and walking.
Because they want you
Um,
to, I'm assuming because they want the gas to, everything to move. Because that's
yeah,
why when I've had my abdomen surgeries and my DNCs, that's what they want from me.
nah. And I think I had internal stitches, but I didn't have external stitches. They put a vacuum wound sealer on me, and I had that for both C-sections.
We had to do that for
which
Ron's foot. I know exactly what you had to deal with. That's
no,
not easy to deal with.
yeah,
Did they come
for
change it? Or did you leave the
no,
hospital with it?
yeah,
Holy crap.
you get like a little satchel for the vacuum
Okay.
situation, and then like you know, you sleep with it like
Yeah.
sucking your wound
For those of you who have
for a
never
few
dealt
weeks.
with a wound vac, it is a lot. We had to do it with my husband's now amputated foot, because the wound was so deep. It's a vacuum wounds are usually, or wound vacs are usually used when you have a very deep wound, a very deep cut, or a large space that needs to heal, because it has to basically, your body is basically regrowing your tissue, your skin, because your skin is very, it's a large organ, and so it's a lot. That is a lot of stress, and on a new mommy, I can't imagine that. That's a lot.
And they did offer me Tylenol 3s, but I can't take them. They make me violently ill. So I was just taking over-the-counter Tylenol
Mm.
for any discomfort. Yeah, first C-section wasn't horrible. It was normal.
I don't know, that sounds
The
horrible
first
to me, but I also haven't had a child
I
yet.
mean, if you're gonna have a C-section experience, it wasn't an emergency exactly, like, it was kind of foreseen, planned, so they kinda knew, and everything turned out fine. I didn't have
Wow.
any complications, and I healed for what we know, I healed pretty well from the first one. He did have to be taken to the n
NICU.
NICU
Yeah,
NICU, yeah.
you don't. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what my
and put
cousin
under
used to do, is NICU. She's a NICU nurse. Yeah.
yeah, the special light and stuff. My in-laws tried to sneak in to be the first to see and hold him. Because my father-in-law decided that it was my mother-in-law's right.
We won't even get into that man. We're
Um,
all intimate with
uh,
stories about this person.
yeah, yeah.
the
Um,
audacity.
Right.
I luckily I I didn't have a village. I technically still do not. When I had my first one, we were in an apartment in Alberta, and it was just me and the child. Uh, even post C-section for the most part, because my husband had to work. We didn't have a choice.
Right.
Uh, as far as I know, I didn't have any depression. Well, let's see. I didn't have extra spicy depression. I had the regular.
Just the right amount to make you funny, right?
I had the regular depression, but like not the baby blues or the that kind of stuff. It
Yeah.
was probably because I got to control my environment completely. And my journey, I didn't know how much that was important because I didn't know how neurodivergent I was. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that was a big, you know, um, my eldest hits about 2 years old. We decided to try again. Not as planned out because I'm like, okay, well, we'll just try, see what happens. We get pregnant with my second one. We do not announce. Oh, I will say this. With my first child, I did not connect with it be while I was pregnant because I was prepared for it to die.
And you didn't want to get
Same.
that connection.
I didn't
Yeah.
want that connection because they tell you like there's possibilities. and it's more possibilities if you're plus size. Blah blah blah. Uh, I learn, throughout that it's not true, but it's
Yeah.
no connection until he is out and he's alive.
And he's a healthy, beautiful baby boy.
Yeah. So the second one, I'm a little bit more relaxed with it, but we do not announce until we have moved from Alberta,
Yeah.
and that
Oh,
was
that's
in
right. Y'all had to
October.
move when you were at the beginning of the pregnancy. That's right. I remember
Yeah,
that.
and he's due in May. The C-section's already scheduled because I already had a C-section, and I'm like, you know what? At least I know when it's happening because I have to travel 6 hours away to have it happen.
Yeah.
Because I live in a rural area now in the mountains. Um, I had almost everything planned out in the first one, like if I was gonna have a C-section, if I was not gonna have a C-section, this is what I wanted to happen. The the kicker, the hitch in the giddy up, if you will, was my in-laws. Uh, so the second time around, I was very explicit with the hospital staff. No one gets to see the child before I see the child. They're ready to escort father-in-law out of the hospital if need be.
Good. Good.
I will say the second pregnancy was a rougher nausea-wise. Like I had it complete for the full pregnancy.
Mm.
And like Wicked said, no one really tells you that it may not ever go away. I'm like,
You just come to terms with it.
yeah, I'm drinking ginger ale and eating saltines all the time. I'm staying away from bananas and because that was my trigger food for the second one.
Oh.
But feeling sick all the time and having to move was big, and it was a big transition. So I think that helped trigger what came after. So we drive the 6 hours. We don't really have anybody, like mother-in-law's there to watch Zeke a little. But my mom doesn't come up. My mom has never met my second child. Uh, she's only seen my first child once. So we don't really have anybody helping out too much. We I have to stay in the hospital because they're not sure if my second child can hear fully on one side. Maybe didn't pass his first hearing test. Okay.
Wow. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And we're always doubling up on what we do because we're 6 hours away from, like, civilization. So, at the same time, my eldest is getting, checked out and referred so he can get tested for autism. So, we're all dealing with that. And then, we bring Oren back, or my second one, what do you wanna call him? And, then the fires happen, and we have to leave again. And though, you do get checked up on, there's no time to process that I'm probably not processing any of this. I'm just moving forward
Yeah.
because that's the only direction I can go.
I mean, at that time, not only were you dealt with the move, you're dealing with Z getting tested for autism, you were dealing with the fires, and you were working with Real Women of Gaming and girl streamers and adminning and being a community manager for those communities, which at that time, girl streamers was still very new. So there was a lot of shit we were doing at that time trying to learn, right? So your own duties were a lot outside of just having kids to take care of. So you had a lot, and you never
Yeah.
really had the time to sit down and process that.
Yeah. So I've come to realize transitions, not my jam. Not good at them. That's very big signature of autism, and I didn't realize moving was huge. I was not in control of the situation. I was not in control of how the house is put together. I'm still recovering from that. That's like 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, the fires stopped for the most part, but they're very devastating. So we stay with friends, but the place we're staying at is not baby proofed.
Mm.
Which, we're making the best of it. But it's very stressful with a newborn and then a very active, non-speaking child. And hoping that they understand,
Yeah.
which luckily they did. They love our kids, and that was nice. We come back. I am not feeling physically like I'm putting like all the stuff is moving back together like it did the first time.
Okay. Yeah.
My pelvis is still popping. I don't know if everybody felt that. But there's where your pelvis connects in the middle, there's
Mhm.
like a ligament there, and when you have an abundance of hormones, things start to get loosey-goosey for birth.
Right.
Both pregnancies, my pelvis will pop. But after the first one, oh, it hurts and it's very uncomfortable. After the first one, it went back. Like all the hormones calmed down, and everything went back to normal. Second one, months later, I am feeling this, and I'm bringing it up to my first doctor that I had when I moved here. He's like, okay. And the only thing he does is send me for an intrauterine ultrasound, and the only information that I get is, well, your scars are healing, so you're fine. And I'm like, but my body
Doesn't feel fine.
doesn't feel fine.
Right.
Um, and he's not listening, so I switch doctors. And this next doctor, very attentive, very good. But at this point, I don't recognize certain things are going on with my body.
Mhm.
I'm definitely not producing enough milk for Oren, my second child. Um, but
You're still breastfeeding Zeke at that time as well, right?
no, I stopped. So I breastfed Zeke for 2.5 years. Once I got pregnant, the milk kind of dried up because that's what hormones do.
Okay. Okay.
So I stopped. I only got to 10 months with Oren, and the only way he made it was because he was on me every hour.
Oh yeah, you were streaming with that baby.
Yeah. I was
He was-
breastfeeding while screaming. I was breastfeeding
He was a preemie.
while sleeping. He was 39 weeks.
Oh, he was
He was
39.
39 weeks.
Oh, he was just really small.
He was small. He was
yeah.
5 pounds.
Although you can't tell it now.
I mean, he's not. He's really tall, but he's
Yeah.
not big. Um. So I'm like working hard to like keep him alive.
Yeah.
We reach 10 months, we switch over to milk. Like it's like, and then he just grows fast. So it's clearly my breasts were not.
Yeah.
But no one would say that. No one that had checked me out would say that.
Was there a little shame associated with the fact that you couldn't breastfeed the second one? But the do you think can you recognize whether or not you kind of had some of that? That's the question.
I don't think it was shame more than frustration. Like, why
yeah.
wasn't this working? Like, it worked with the first, but it didn't
Yeah.
work with the second. And I feel like probably part of it was the depression that didn't get diagnosed until maybe a year in.
Yeah.
And I was not eating. Then the hernia showed up. And that explains some things.
Yeah.
That
The
my
reason why your
abdomen
body is not feeling right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why I was not feeling like I was healing the way I was supposed to be healing. Because it's right, from what I can tell, it's in between the 2 C-section scars. So at least on the outside. Now I don't know where they cut me on the inside.
Yeah.
It might be exactly where one of the cuts are. But I have 2 separate C-section scars because the skin just dropped
Yeah.
for the first one, and it's continuing to drop for the second one. So I have an apron, is what they call it, stomach, and they'll probably end up taking it for the surgeries.
Well, I mean, and that's probably because you never healed. So your
No.
body, it had to go somewhere. Like, because the hernia is there. Like, it has to go somewhere. So it gets pushed out and everything gets pushed down.
No. So I'm dealing with like 2 things, some physical ailments after the pregnancy that weren't exactly explained to me that would happen, because an umbilical hernia is not overly common result of pregnancy,
Right.
I don't think. But it's definitely what I got. I'm like, "My belly button is doing something weird," and he's like, "Oh, it's a hernia." I'm like, "Oh." He's like, "As long as you can push it back in, you'll be fine." And then I'm like, but what?" And then it stopped going back in not long after that anyway, so it was a moot point at that point. So I was like, "Okay." Um, and with my abdomen, it's more than just the hernia. Like, my abs did not go back together, and with the overhanging skin and stuff, I can't. I've always been fat. I've been able to be active and be fat.
Yeah.
But this has stopped that pretty much altogether because my stomach is tender all the time.
Yeah.
And I can't stand up for prolonged amounts of times anymore because of my lower back.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Almost like a hernia is a big deal or something.
Right?
It's almost like it is crazy.
And you've been dealing with the hernia for what, 5 years now?
The hernia did not show up, at least didn't show up on the outside right away. So I would say maybe 2.5 years I've
Okay.
known of its existence.
Yeah.
But I've known things were off because I've always been really in tune with how my body has felt
Yeah.
because I'm a creature of comfort, and if something feels uncomfortable, I need it to feel comfortable again.
Right.
Um, so right when the 6 weeks hit after Oren was born and you're supposed to be, like, getting back together and getting back into life, and I'm like, "This is not feeling like the last one."
Yeah.
And the other the first doctor's not listening, really.
I wonder if he'd caught it sooner if they had been able to actually fix it sooner, if he had actually listened to you. Because you are still dealing. That's something that I really want to emphasize is that she is still dealing with this problem. And her child is 5. Her second is now 5 years old. And this is from that pregnancy. That is entirely too long to go without having the hernia repaired and fixed.
Yeah.
They're forcing you because they're taking so long, they've basically forced you to be sedentary and not be able to be active.
Yeah. It's affecting, like, my kids' quality of life and my
Yeah.
household's quality of life, just overall, because I am the organizer, I am the one who does the face-to-face meetings for things and all of that kinda stuff, and, when I do those things, it takes a lot of energy to do those things.
Yeah. Because you're in pain and yeah.
And they don't tell you about the complications from C-sections that you can have.
Yeah.
Because like I deal with the complications from my C-sections still, and Logan is 7.
Wow.
Like after my C-section with Logan, my intestines fused to my C-section scar.
What?
Mhm.
That's a thing?
They told
Yeah.
me that I needed to massage my scars, so they
Uh-huh.
didn't. So I massaged all the time.
But see, when I found out, it was like Logan was like a year and a half, and I couldn't eat food anymore. And I hadn't eaten in like 2 days, and I was in excruciating pain. So I go to the emergency room, and they're like, "We can't find anything." So finally, after 4 days of not eating, like not doing anything, they're like, "We'll do an exploratory surgery." And that's when they found out like my intestines didn't go back in the areas that they were supposed to after the C-section.
I love that it's always exploratory surgery for us.
Mhm.
Always. Because they don't see it's like it's I feel like at this point when it comes to technology and the medical advances we've had, there's got to be a way to see this stuff without having to explore the inside of our bodies. Right? Yeah.
Well, we're women and we're obviously hysterical, so we can't be in as much pain as we're in.
I mean, I'm
It
finally
just-
getting a CT scan for all of this
Mm.
next week.
Yeah. Which is great.
How long?
news
Wait, how long ago did we raise money for
to-
your travel?
It's
Yeah.
been a couple years.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years.
I mean, and we raised a lot of money to get you that surgery and everything in hopes that
Well, to pay for the travel.
Travel.
Because they're supposed
Yeah.
to pay for
Well,
And I still
surgery.
have it. I
yeah.
still have it because I'm still gonna have to travel. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I'm gonna have to travel for the major surgeries. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just found this out this year that when you get a C-section, when they pull everything out, they just kind of throw it back in
Uh-huh. And hope it
and
goes back.
say it probably rearrange itself in the right
What?
way.
They don't even
Yeah.
try to put it back where it's supposed to go.
Not your intestines. Most of all the like major things, they put it in the general area it's supposed to go.
Okay.
But your intestines just get thrown in there and they'll work themselves out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's actually really okay. I'm sorry, but your intestines are so
Mhm.
long. I feel like there's such an easy way for them to get twisted if they're not careful.
Mhm.
There is a
That
very
just-
easy way for them to get twisted,
just-
or for your fallopian tubes and your ovaries to get stuck in your intestines, behind your intestines.
That just to me sounds
Barbaric?
But they don't tell
yes.
you. They don't tell you.
Like,
Didn't.
I get that our bodies are really awesome and can repair itself, but when you do something like that, like that is dumb to me. That's so dumb to me.
And
Everything that happens to us when it comes to pregnancy and giving birth is barbaric.
There's one of the things I'm quickly learning is when it comes to reproductive health, we are so far behind still. And one of the things I really want to note is that Kinky, not only is she's in Canada, but she's an American citizen as well. And she's also Black. And that is something that, like,
You're Black?
What?
wait, what?
What?
For those of you who are not aware,
sorry,
because
I
this is
couldn't
not
help it.
visual, the mortality rate, and I learned this from Kinky, the mortality rates of Black women is so much higher because you are not listened to at all, ever. We already deal with not being listened to as just non-men. But then to add the fact that you are, person of color, just makes it even worse because, like I said before, they think you have a high pain tolerance. Like, that was taught in medical schools for so long that Black people have a higher pain tolerance, and it's not.
I thought they thought we had a lower pain tolerance.
No, it's that we have a higher tolerance, so we don't need the medications.
Yeah. So when did you finally get to a place in your head where you felt okay? And are you even there yet? Because you're still dealing with that process. I mean, 5 years later, 7 years later, you're still dealing with that trauma from those two births, and that's major.
Yeah, the aftermath for me was probably more traumatic than the actual birth. Like, birthing is going to be a trauma regardless.
Right.
It is. They don't really say that. You don't really realize it because it's so
magical and wonderful.
normalized.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they talked about the baby blues and they talked about
the hair loss.
depression. Oh, the hair loss. Yeah, my hair has not been the same since.
Y'all are really selling me on the fact that I can't have kids right now. Like, I am. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I'm still trying to find a balance of how to deal with the postpartum depression and anxiety after even 5 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know postpartum anxiety existed
Nope.
until my last session with my postpartum depression counselor, and I brought up these invasive thoughts that I was having. And she's like, "Yeah, that's postpartum anxiety." And I was like, "That was the bigger problem. Why is no one talking about the anxiety part? Because the anxiety part is the worst part. Like,
Yes.
depression, that's my setting. That's my
That's my
That's my
wheelhouse.
standard.
That's my
wheelhouse.
default. It's been my
Right.
default since I was like 6. So
I
I
came with that package upgrade.
Right?
I can understand
anxiety.
that.
The
But
anxiety is the worst.
I've never felt
from her.
yeah, I've never felt crazy until
hmm
I had my second child, and then my brain went, "What if?"
What if you
And
left your
didn't stop.
child alone? What if you took your child to daycare and somebody came in and shot up the place? What if you took your child to a family member's house that you have trusted and loved your entire life and left them there and they molested your child?
Yep.
Oh,
What if your child was kidnapped and sold into a sex ring while your roommate took them into the bathroom?
Mhm.
What if you left the room and they stopped breathing? What if they got caught in the pull blinds? What if they
Oh yeah, that's a panic attack waiting to happen. I
I
saw a thing
made
that was
them
like,
take all the blinds
yeah.
out of this house before we moved in.
Mhm.
No, absolutely not.
wow. Wow.
And
Um,
you would have terrible thoughts about people you loved and cared about that
mhm,
would never hurt your child. But now you have to watch everybody because you're the only person that
yep,
can protect them.
yep. And my mind, like, I already know women can be monsters.
Yeah.
And,
So
and like
And
the
what
we assume the men, but women can be just
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
horrid, and you leave your most precious things with women.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I want to thank Lisa for joining me and sharing her story. As an update, she has recently learned that the hernia is a full-blown hernia and it's going to be a process to deal with. As you can see, the reproductive cycle does not end with giving birth, and the repercussions from it follow you for the rest of your life. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You can follow Lisa everywhere at KinkedNitemare on social media. And if you or a loved one is in need of reproductive assistance, please check out the podcast site for those resources at twolazydogs.site/RR. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs Media production.